All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about what Freddie Roach had to say about Jaron Ennis, Terence Crawford, and Errol Spence, and that he believes Jaron Ennis right now is the man in that division. Let's talk about that in this video. Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to talk about the deepest division in all of boxing, in my opinion, as far as top-notch fighters that are proven, and that is the welterweight division. But before I get into the meat of the video, though, please make sure that if you are not subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos, and hit all notifications so that you can get all of them. Also, if you wager on sports, be sure to support us at BUSR, at busr.ag/Fanon. We got a lot of promotions that run over there that you can take advantage of to increase the value of your money. All right, so let's get into this. Freddie Roach, world-class trainer, former trainer of Manny Pacquiao, former trainer of a multitude of world champions and top-level fighters. There was a streak in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, where it was like every year Freddie Roach was getting trainer of the year, trainer of the year, trainer of the year, a guy that really does know what he's talking about in the sport of boxing. And at this point in time, I don't really think has a horse in the race. And he was asked about Jaron Boots Ennis out of the city of Philadelphia. And what he said was that he believes right now that Jaron Ennis is the best welterweight in the world, which means that he will beat guys like future Hall of Famers, Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford, also guys like your Danis Ugas, Keith Thurman, all of those type of guys. Of all of those future guys, several of them are future Hall of Famers, right? Some people can argue whether or not Keith Thurman is going to get in or not, right? Whether Danny Garcia is going to get in or not or whatever. But it's very, very hard to argue that these guys, guys like Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. are not on their way there. So for Freddie Roach to say that about Jaron Ennis is a very, very big thing and something that people really should take seriously, man. I've been a fan of Jaron Ennis and been, putting out videos on Jaron Ennis, for several years now. Pretty much since I saw him, pretty much since the first time I saw the guy fight in his professional career, before he had that long layoff that he had when, he had the promotional issues going on between Cameron Duncan and the guy that was his original promoter. Right before that happened, and he came back and he started fighting again on Showtime. I've been really, really big on this dude, but I've also really been big on Errol Spence Jr. the same way when Errol Spence Jr. was coming up, same way about Terence Crawford when Terence Crawford was coming up, right? So to say that Jaron Ennis is better than these guys and the best welterweight, considering those guys are in the weight division at the same time, is something that is really, really, really big and something that I think is a little bit unusual for you to see in the boxing world. There's not a lot of people. For example, you've got a really good fighter, undefeated. I think he's Dominican. He may be Puerto Rican. Forgive me. David Morrell at 168 pounds, who's a young fighter, undefeated fighter, right? You also have a guy like David Benavidez, who is a two-time champion at 168 pounds, two-time WBC champion, undefeated fighter, had some problems or whatever, but you never really hear anybody saying, yeah, this dude is better than everybody in the division. And when that division, the people in that division include Canelo Alvarez. If people were saying that about David Benavidez and David Morrell, right, that would tell you exactly how, what the potential of those guys are, or tells you what the potential is of Jaron Ennis. Now, me personally, I think that this is my point on it. I think that Jaron Ennis is probably the most talented fighter in all of boxing, from what I can see, right? And I've seen pretty much every fight that's available of his to see. And when he's in the ring with people, he really is just completely on a different level of fighter than the other guys are. And that is not necessarily always been the case when I've seen Terence Crawford fight early in his career. I've seen Errol Spence Jr. fight earlier in his career where, he has definitely dominated and beaten up guys, and got guys out of there in scintillating fashion. But with Jaron Ennis, it almost looks like it's like the guy is playing a different sport than the other guys in the ring. Now, I understand what a lot of people would say where they're like, well, no, you got to wait more time with Jaron Ennis. I'll believe him when I see him do this or I see him do that. And that is very, very fair, man. I'm not, so if people were to respond to what Freddie Roach had to say and be like, yeah, but who has he fought? This guy, who is Sergey Lipinets? Who is Thomas Delorme? Who is Chris Van Heerden? Who is Abreu, right? All of that stuff. I can understand it and it's reasonable. However, just understand that, all of the great fighters that there have been in boxing that we now look at and say, man, this dude was the greatest fighter. He's an all-time great. Like, for example, like Floyd Mayweather Jr. is an obvious example of that. People did not think of that. Did not think anything like that of Floyd Mayweather Jr. when Floyd Mayweather Jr. was at 130 pounds, beating Janair Hernandez, beating Jose Luis Castillo. They were not talking about him like, man, this is the best dude. He's going to be better than everybody at 135, better than everybody at 140. They didn't talk about him like that. They didn't talk about him like that until it actually happened. And the reason that I bring that up is because to show you that just because people aren't talking about it and you haven't seen that yet doesn't mean that it's not true. And there's certain fighters and certain talent levels of guys that you can see and just be like, man, no, that dude right there is different. For me, a great example of that outside of boxing was LeBron James. There's so much talk about LeBron James when he was in high school that I think he turned pro maybe like 2 years after a guy named Yao, a Chinese fighter, a Chinese heavyweight named Yao Ming turned professional. Yao Ming turned professional and became Rookie of the Year, 7'5" dude playing very well. Yao Ming's a Hall of Famer, had a Hall of Fame career for Houston, right? But the first time that I heard about LeBron James is when somebody said, look, as good as Yao Ming is right now, we're telling you there's a sophomore in high school in Ohio that if he came out of pro right now, turned pro in his sophomore year in high school, he'd be the number one pick in the draft over Yao Ming. As a sophomore in high school is what they said about LeBron James. And what happened with LeBron James? LeBron James came out 2 years later, was the number one pick in the draft, and he exceeded the expectations of people had for him when they said he would be the number one draft as a sophomore. But there were a whole lot of people just pshawn that idea and saying how ridiculous it was that, that could be the case and no way and this and that, right? However, proved him wrong. And I would not say, what I would say about LeBron James is, about Jaron Ennis is, do not make the mistake as a boxing fan of counting this guy out and wasting your time just thinking, oh man, this bubble is going to pop on this guy, because that bubble on him may never get popped, or it may not get popped till he's up there at 160 pounds. From what I can see, he's a better talent at this point in time in his career than Terence Crawford was at this early stage in his career. He's a better talent and he looks more developed than Canelo Alvarez did early in his career. He looks better to me, or as good, or I'll say as good probably, as Andre Ward did when Andre Ward was early in his career. Looked almost as good as Floyd. Was something ridiculous the first time I saw Floyd. But so they kind of look like they're close to what and what. Take these guys serious, because Freddie Roach is not the only guy to say this. There's a bunch of other guys that are literally saying the same thing about him, who like Sean Porter, other champions in the division. They all got that dude up there. But anyway, I'm looking forward to his boxing, his fight coming up against Castillo Clayton, which will put him in a title shot for the mandatory for the WBC. But if he doesn't get that fight with Errol Spence or Terence Crawford, I'm telling you, look for him to take over that division. But anyway, that's my take on the matter, and I'm talking about what Freddie Roach had to say. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.